Welcome to another terrific tips for business podcast. I, of course, am Terry, your host, because you can't spell terrific without Terry. You already knew that, though. This is old news. I am super excited today because I have a friend of mine who I've had the distinct honor and privilege of knowing for, gosh, Teddy, what's it been? At least 5 years now.
Oh, at least probably closer to 10.
Probably closer to 10 on the show. And Teddy Burriss is located here in Winston-Salem, but he is a LinkedIn specialist strategist. So he really works with all of our business owners and sales reps to help them max out their LinkedIn presence and their LinkedIn profiles. And he is an absolute genius. I have had the privilege of working with him in a variety of capacities over the years, and I'm super excited to bring him to you all today. So without further ado, Teddy Burriss of Teddy Burriss Consulting, welcome to the show.
Gary, thank you very much. One of these days, I'm going to figure out what this do thing is that people don't want to further give out, as I wordsmith all the time.
What do you mean subdue thing?
Oh, without further ado.
Oh.
What's this ado thing? I just play with words. Like I don't know how I got hooked on playing with words, but I've been playing with words for about 15 years right now. And it freaks me out. But anyway,
yeah.
Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it, my friend.
Oh, you are most welcome. Thank you for being here. It is a treat and a pleasure. So let's talk a little bit. One of our favorite conversations or questions to start with is, what's been the biggest challenge for you in being a business owner, and some tips or tools that maybe you've used to overcome them? So let's start with the biggest challenge and we'll go.
Yeah, when you dropped that one on me and said, Teddy, be ready for that question, I'm like, biggest challenge? And we only have an hour to talk. And I mean, there are so many different challenges that we have to work on in order to be successful and efficient.
Yes.
And and one of them, the one that comes to mind often is time. So I am very fortunate. I learned a new word the other day. I can't remember the word. What the word was? It was a T word, tardy or turdy. But basically it's a time machine. And so I've decided that, in order to solve this time problem, I need a time machine. Or one other idea is I could take and use old batteries in the clock and make the top tick a little bit slower.
Really? You think that'll be effective? You think that'll help?
Oh, crap. Maybe it won't.
So this might make you late for everything if you do that.
Yeah. Sure.
Then you really will be turdy. But I love the idea of the time machine. Is there so time definitely is an issue, especially for business owners.
Yeah. And so here's some of the ideas that I've come up with to help me address this time challenge, which really isn't a challenge. It's just really using it in the most appropriate ways across the day, across the week, across the month. And so I'll tell you one of them, then I'll talk a little bit about process and systems. So one of the things I make a very deliberate decision about doing is using my time in the most appropriate ways. And that is, one example is I don't have time to engage with everyone. I don't have time to answer every question or get on every call, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the ways that I manage that is I always ask myself, the person who wants my time, how important am I to them and how important are they to me? And what's going to be the mutually beneficial value of us spending time together?
That's a really good question, especially for those of us in the networking sphere. We do a ton of networking. You meet a ton of people. Everybody's encouraged to do one-on-ones to get to know you, and really asking yourself, what is this time worth? Is this somebody who I really believe can help me in some way because of somebody they know? or it's somebody that would be good for my business, or is this somebody that is just going to be a really good friend and I want to be able to build that relationship? And those are great questions to ask when you're deciding how much time you're going to spend with that person.
Yeah, and there's value to creating great friendships. And the value of that is no less than the value of creating good business connections, because they're equally have value to our lives. One of the things that I did that I started doing in late 2019, before the world changed significantly in our ability to do the things that we do, is I said, all right, I don't have enough time in the day to do all the things that I want to do. So I can't spend an hour having a networking call with every single person who wants to have a one-on-one with me. So I decided that I needed to use a 30-minute time. So everybody who wants to have a call with me or a chat with me, who wants to do a one-on-one, that instead of giving them an hour, I give them 30 minutes. Well, that gives me the ability to do twice as many one-on-ones if I wanted to, or it gives me the ability to use that other half an hour to do other things that are important on the revenue stream. The other thing I did as well, Terry, is I said, first time conversations don't need to be an hour either. So let's make first time conversations a 15-minute chat. So everybody who says, Teddy, I'd like to meet you, or everybody who I say, Terry, I'd like to meet you, then I invite them to a 15-minute conversation. And what I've discovered is that if you're purposeful about your engagement in a 15-minute chat, you can discover if there's a value in having a deeper conversation. Everybody you have a one-on-one conversation with, you already know them a little bit, they already know you a little bit, you're just trying to develop that relationship further. You can do that in a 30-minute conversation. Again, if you're pretty purposeful about investing that 30 minutes in a very tactical way. So that is one of the big process changes that I've made that has allowed me to better manage this 24 hours that I get every day.
And I love that because it not only focuses the conversation, but it really takes the pressure off too, right? Because now we know it's just a chat. It's only 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You can talk about a lot of things in 15 minutes, but it's only 15 minutes. So now the pressure is off and it doesn't feel like you have to come up with a way to be interesting, exciting, or engaging for a full hour. That can be overwhelming for some people. So it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm also, I'm Sandler sales trained. And what that means is that one of the things I got out of being a Sandler sales professional is what's called the upfront contract. Now, the upfront contract is I'm supposed to, and I try to do this pretty deliberately. When I start a 15-minute conversation or a 30-minute conversation, I declare my upfront contract to begin with. Hey, Terry, I'll appreciate your time. You and I have committed to 15 minutes or 30 minutes or a 1 hour conversation a day. Are you good with that 15-minute time frame, or is there something else you have to do? So I know that you are going to be committed to me for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 1 hour, whatever we declare. And then I declare another part of in the upfront contract. What I hope that we can gain from this conversation is X, Y, and Z. A, B, or C. Are you good with that conversation? So that way we're all on the same page. We know how much time we're going to commit. We know how we've committed to that. And then we know what our expectations, at least I know what my expectations are. And by the way, I also say, is there anything else that you expect to get from this conversation? You do that up front. It makes that 15 minutes or that 30 minutes way more enjoyable, way more focused, and mutually beneficial.
And that's what it's all about, finding that mutual benefit. That is a beautiful tip. And I love Sandler. Sandler training is amazing. So excellent tip, the upfront contract. And it just has to be a yes or no. And if it's no, that's okay. It really does take that pressure right off. Very good. Okay. So you said you had a couple of things that you're doing to help maximize your time aside building a time machine, which I totally want access to once you have it.
Don't tell everybody about that.
Oh, it's our secret. It's our secret. It's not on YouTube or anything.
So here's a tool I use. I use Calendly, and you use Calendly as well, I believe. Yeah. So I've integrated Calendly into my business processes. Now, I don't just have Calendly. I mean, there's a lot of people who have Calendly, but I'm pretty hardcore about making sure my Calendly works. Okay. So what I've done with Calendly is I've integrated it with my Google Calendars, not just my main calendar, but my sub calendars where I have my nefarious activities that I don't tell people about. I am a professional embezzler. That's a side gig that most people don't know about, but I've got to commit time to that as well. So that's on the other calendar.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know Teddy, he is a jokester, and I'm going to just say that right now. He's obviously joking.
They listen to the whole show, they'll quickly get that was satire. And hopefully they listen to your entire show. Nobody should just tune in for 5 minutes. So, because the real value comes at the end of the show. Yes, thank you, Terry. So here's what I do with Calendly. It's integrated and connected to my primary calendars. I have a voluntary calendar for my volunteer activity, and I have my business calendar. And secondly, I tie Calendly to Zoom. So because every call I make is a Zoom call. I don't do phone calls. I really don't do phone calls. I do them when I have to. So I give my whoever my meeting request is with, I give them the opportunity if they have to use a telephone. But I connect it to Zoom, and it automatically creates a Zoom meeting for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour. The other thing I do is in my Calendly request, I use all the abilities to ask all of the right questions. I just don't create a Calendly and say, let's get together at X hour for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. I ask questions. What do you want to get out of this conversation? I need to know your LinkedIn profile URL. If it's a conversation about some other social media, I need to know other information. So I ask all of the questions that I can, the appropriate questions up front. So I have that information before we meet. The next thing I do is sometimes I do these calls and I get paid to do them. So why not use Calendly to get my money? So when you go to Calendly to one of my fee-based events that I do one-on-one coaching or whatever, or strategy conversations, I have a Calendly type that's specifically for that. Then not only does it ask the questions, create the Zoom link, but it also says, oh, Terry, hang on a minute. Before we can confirm this meeting with Teddy, you've got to go to PayPal and give him money. And that's all integrated and seamless, and it works like a charm. That reduces me from having to create a Zoom link, having to send you another email to ask you questions, and then send you another message, say, Terry, you got to pay me. It's all built in. And what that has done for me, not only made it more efficient for me and my clients and my networking conversations, but it's also reduced the need for me to pay a VA to do those tasks.
Oh, yeah. And it's freed up time, because one of the things I was just talking about the other day with one of my clients was you have to account for about 5% of your working hours every week to admin time. And you've really reduced that because you've found ways to automate. And there are tools out there that allow for automation of some of that stuff, which is wonderful. I love that you shared how you've connected those pieces to streamline that automation or streamline that admin stuff to free up that time. It's so good.
Yeah. So it works pretty decent. It doesn't work flawlessly. Works pretty decent. I had a few hiccups, or I guess Calendly had a few hiccups maybe 4 or 5 months ago, where people who were using Outlook couldn't get my calendar invites. And so I did some refining on it, and I also turned on the notifications, the reminders, so that people get notified and reminded. Because as I would wager that you would agree, there is nothing worse than showing up on a Zoom call and doing this. Where are they? Where are they? Because I can't tolerate that.
Yes, that drives me nuts. And especially when you're like, okay, so we had it blocked for 15 minutes. And then your question that runs through your head is, how long do I give them? Because I understand things happen, things come up, There's definitely some grace there. Maybe the Zoom link didn't work for them. Maybe they're having an internet issue. Maybe they're in the car and they thought they were going to be back in time and they're not, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So how long do you give your people when you have a scheduled appointment? How long do you give them to give them a little grace to get signed into the Zoom call?
So I'm pretty purposeful about this because Terry, I have, every day I have 7 or 8 of these calls every day, all the time. I mean, some of them are the 1-hour coaching, some of them are the 15-minute calls. And because I do work globally, I've got to start early in the morning and work later in the afternoon, in the evenings. So I don't have time to waste. If you don't show up, then I've got to go do something else because I got other things to do. So for a 15-minute chat, I wait 2 minutes before I send you a text message or another email. Okay. For a 30-minute chat, I will wait 5 minutes. Okay. And after 5 minutes, you're going to get a text message or a chat or a LinkedIn message or an email or a LinkedIn message, whatever the right thing is. Sometimes I'll call them. But if I've got a 15-minute call and you're not on in 5, I'm done. Because 1/3 of our time together just went bye-bye. Okay. For a 30-minute chat, if you're not there in 10 minutes, bye-bye. Because 1/3 of our time just went away. Now, I'm very accommodating to rescheduling for the right reasons. But if they're not the right reasons, I can't reschedule.
Okay, so let's define what is a right reason.
Oh, your horse died and you couldn't get to the bar in time. And there's lots of reasons. I mean, lots of reasons, but you just can't go, hey, I couldn't make it. Sorry. Because, your time is important and my time is important. But I'm flexible. I really am fairly flexible. My business and my lifestyle is a little different than many's. Because I'm what's the word? I hate using that R word that ends in ment, retirement. But I'm no longer building another $1 million business. I'm happy with the $750,000 business, and so I don't work as many hours as most people do. So I'm pretty accommodating.
I think that's really important too. That not only do they acknowledge that they weren't there. They're apologetic about not being there. And it's not necessarily looking for an excuse because everybody has an excuse. We can find one. We can dig them up. There's a million excuses. My dog ate my homework is the first one that we're taught when we're kids, right? At the end of the day, it's how authentic or genuine are you being with your apology? And that's going to get you back on the calendar.
Well, I mean, this is a relationship. And if you don't, care enough about the relationship to respect my time as I should respect your time, then that's not really the kind of people I want to do business with. And by the way, it's not that I haven't made mistakes. Lordy, I remember about 2 months ago, I showed up at a doctor's appointment. I was on time, 24 hours late. Yeah.
Oh no, that's terrible.
It is. I mean, I felt like a heel. I mean, I went on my, whatever it is, the my chart thingy and sent them a message. And I said, look, I want you to know that I truly apologize. That was, ridiculous and disrespectful of me to do that to you. And I just want you to know that I would never do that. And I apologize. And then fast forward, I think it was about 3 weeks after that, there was something else I needed to do, and I was an hour behind because I put it down on my calendar wrong. And I'll tell you how to manage that in a minute. But again, I showed up an hour late and it wasn't, a formal thing, but I was supposed to be there an hour earlier. And she goes, "That's okay, Teddy, no harm, no foul." I was like, "No, I was disrespectful to you." And so that really is important to me. One of the ways that I try to make sure that I have my calendar right is for the most part, I don't put anything on my calendar to work with another without sending a calendar invite. That way you can see that I scheduled it for 11 o'clock and you go, Teddy, we said 10 o'clock, and then I can fix it. So use your business tools to help you make sure you don't make dumb mistakes, Teddy.
And that's an excellent tip. If you are able to send a calendar invite, do that. That is the benefit to having a digital calendar. So I know there are still people out there that are pen and paper. And let's be honest, I have papers on my desk too.
Let
I
me
can
make
be a
sure I
pen
got you in my Rolodex. I got you in my Rolodex.
That's beautiful and true. I mean, we could totally be a pen and paper person and still take advantage of that technology and sending that invite. It is a good checks and balance in that case. Rita, you are most welcome. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the conversation so far. Thanks for being here and watching it live. I appreciate you. Let's take a minute. Teddy, this has already been so insightful. You've already provided great value to our listeners. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you and tap into more of your brilliance?
Oh, Lordy, just go to any street corner. I'm hanging out there waving at you. Just, any street corner. I'm out there No, go to burrissconsulting.com. Just, look at my website. Google Teddy Burriss and go to my website. Look at what I do. You'll find all about me there. If you like what you see, subscribe to my blog and let me know what I can do to help you. Just go to my website, burrissconsulting.com.
burrissconsulting.com, and it's Burriss, Burriss, for those of you who want to know how to spell it. That's super important. So burrissconsulting.com. Teddy, thanks so much. For those of you that are listening, let us know that this conversation is serving you. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, drop us a comment. We do engage with those comments regularly and are always looking to grow this YouTube channel and this podcast network. So make sure you share this with some friends who you think maybe need some support with time management. And we're going to jump into a LinkedIn question next. So Teddy, LinkedIn question for you.
You want to ask me about something different that's right. Time management is just something I try to do better. LinkedIn is my business.
That's right. Exactly. So the platforms are changing. Everything is changing so quickly. What's going on in the LinkedIn world that we as business owners need to be aware of today?
Oh, Lordy. So a couple things. If I just did this 14 reasons why LinkedIn is important for micro, small, and medium businesses. Just did that. Somebody asked me that question for his micro business, and I decided to answer it with a YouTube video and an article. And it's really important, specifically in a business-to-business environment, not excluding business to consumer, but specifically in a business-to-business environment. If you're not using LinkedIn to build a professional presence, a professional and relevant, highly relevant network, and engaging, not just sharing, but engaging on content, you're missing a huge opportunity. And LinkedIn is really pressing hard to make sure people are using LinkedIn more as a business tool, which, oh, by the way, is what I teach. I apologize for the noise. Using LinkedIn as a business tool, because they're squeezing people to be more purposeful. Here's an example. LinkedIn is tightening down the number of LinkedIn invites you can send each week. It used to be there was little restriction as long as your invites were being accepted. If you were sending out too many invites and people were hitting the ignore button too many times, or hitting the I don't know button a few times, then LinkedIn was smack you and shut you down. Now what LinkedIn has done is they've tightened down the number of invites that you can send to connect on LinkedIn to a whopping 100 per week.
That's still pretty significant. I mean, that's almost 25 a day.
Yeah.
If you're doing it 4 days a week, if you're doing it 5 days a week, it's 20 a day.
And actually the number that I've heard is that it is 20 per day. That if you go past 20 per day based on a 5-day week, then LinkedIn will alert you, hey, you're getting a little pushy here. And those may not be the words they use, But they may, if you violate that restriction too often or too deliberately, then they'll shut you down. So I get people who say, oh my God, that's horrible that LinkedIn will not let us. Look, where's that coming from? LinkedIn will not let us send out more than 100 invites. That's like Mr. Hal off of Gilligan's Isle. Now I just dated myself, didn't I? But that really is not that big of a restriction. 100 invites a week. Okay. That's 5,200 a year that you can send out. That's a significant number if, and only if, you're using LinkedIn appropriately.
I was just going to say, it's all about being intentional and deliberate, right? You're not trying to connect with every person on the planet, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're only trying to connect with the people that make the most sense for you to connect with, and not necessarily most sense because they're your target audience. It could be a strategic referral partner that you're trying to connect with, industry. And I almost suggest doing that over connecting with your ideal customer, because I get business coaches who are coaches to coaches trying to connect with me all the time. I'm not interested. I have a coach. I'm not going to connect with you because you're just trying to sell me something. Whereas if you were somebody coming to me saying, I'm a business coach that coaches other businesses and would love to talk with you about how we might be able to do some work together, or would love to get to know you or be able to swap information, now I'm going to probably connect with that person. So if you're one of those people that's listening to my podcast.
So think about that for what you just said, Terry. There's actually two philosophies that I've taken philosophy A and philosophy B and flipped them. And I'll tell you what I mean in a minute. So you're right. I don't just connect with my target audience. I connect with influencers, because my target audience is sales leaders. That's my ideal client, is a sales leader with 20 plus salespeople. Now, I do a lot of work with small business owners and entrepreneurs and coaches, et cetera, on my one-on-one environment. But my target audience, my elephant, is the sales leader. Okay. Well, the sales leader ain't hanging out on LinkedIn. He's out leading his sales team. Okay. He doesn't use LinkedIn at all for the most part. But the influencers do. His sales team, his marketing team, his peers, other people in his company, people that I know who know them. So I really do spend a lot of time looking to connect not only with my target audience, but with their influencers. Because when I can build trust, respect, and like with influencers, and then develop enough of a relationship where we can have a conversation, maybe a Zoom conversation, and then I can ask for a targeted, purposeful introduction. And they're not on LinkedIn, so I'm gonna get an introduction by email. I'm good with that. So when you're building your network, you want to build your network all around your target audience, but use that influencer network because that's rich.
So good. I love that. And I love that you're not just thinking about who your perfect person is, but who they're associating with. And that's really getting into the psychology of our perfect person. You've really honed in your persona, because then where are they getting their information? Who are they being influenced by? Where are they spending their time? So, they might not be spending time here, but the people who they trust, who they rely on, who they look to for guidance and advice are spending time here. So this is where I need to be. And you're right. We do business with people we know, like, and trust. So how do you get to know, like, and trust somebody? Well, you have to build up that credibility. You have to build up that visibility with the right people to support that. So good.
It takes time. I mean, you build up know, like, and trust by engaging and having conversations with others about them first and foremost. Another area that helped impact my life in a very significant way is I studied this dead guy. I studied him for over 2 years before I really got to understand him. And Dale Carnegie taught me how to win friends and influence people. And first and foremost, it's about having a conversation with them about them.
True. Yeah. I was going to ask, can you elaborate on this engage? Because particularly in LinkedIn, and I see this happen all the time, people that you've never met before in life give you this endorsement or endorse you or recommend you for the work that you do. And you're like, but I've never worked with you. I don't
Yeah.
know who you are. So that's not the engagement you mean. I suspect you mean something else when you say engagement, and it's not just a like on something that they've shared.
No, it's invite them to bourbon and beer. Here's what engagement.
Obviously, right now.
Yeah. Here's what engagement means. Engagement means to get into real, meaningful conversations with the other person. And what is a real, meaningful conversation? It depends, or it varies based on how many other conversations you've had with them. And so if it's someone brand new, the best way to get into a real meaningful conversation is to get introduced to them by someone that knows, likes, and trusts each of you. And then, find a way to strike up a conversation with them in the context of them as a human, as two humans talking. You don't jump to, dude, let's talk about your biggest problem you have in business and how I can solve it, because that ain't going to work. But and also it's not a race. It's not a race. It's a journey. When you try to bust through, this is sales tactics as well as relationship development tactics. When you try to bust through and drive that person to that business call and they're not ready, you ain't getting there. As a matter of fact, not only you ain't getting there, but you ain't never going to get there, because now they know that you're nothing more, and I got to use polite words because we're live on YouTube. Now they know you're nothing more than a salesperson. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what title you go by. If you're just a business development person, or if you're a consultant, because I know consultants being used in this way now too for certain industries, it's just a glorified sales person. And at the end of the day, what you really need to focus on is, how am I having those in-depth conversations? But Teddy, an in-depth conversation is something that takes time.
It does. Yeah.
How much time do I need to spend on LinkedIn?
Well, you don't do these in-depth conversations on LinkedIn. I'll give you an example. So LinkedIn, a lot of people leave their birthday notifications on. And you also get notifications for career anniversaries and career shifts. Well, a lot of people go, I don't have time for that crap. Really? Your target audience, your ideal client, has his birthday notification on LinkedIn, and his birthday is today, and you didn't find 15 seconds to send the dude a sincere, honest, man, I hope you have a fantastic Friday celebrating your birthday. And by the way, because your birthday is on Friday, you get to celebrate all weekend long. And even better than that, on the 4th of July, 3 days from now, we're going to celebrate your birthday with fireworks. It's your target audience, your ideal client, and their birthday is today. You should say happy birthday. You don't have to say happy birthday to everybody, but use those little notifications to engage in a friendly, polite, human-to-human way. And maybe the next engagement would go, Terry, you and I haven't talked in a while. I'd love to have a quick chat with you. Now, I just said happy birthday and told you we're having fireworks on the 4th for you. Now you got a smile in your heart about me, and you're more likely to say, yeah, dude, let's chat one day.
I think this is really important, because a lot of people, and this has happened to me recently, I've connected fairly recently ago with a doctor out of some other state, New Hampshire, Maryland, something like that, and cardiologist. And I'm like, sweet, this is awesome. I start talking to him, what's going on? How's it been going? I know things have been kind of weird in the whole medical space. How have you been bouncing back? And the first thing he said was, I'm so glad to connect with like-minded professionals. Are you married? I'm quite sure having a respectful conversation where you're getting to know somebody doesn't automatically go to the, are you married? Do you have family? Conversation. So is there a boundary, and is there a way that we can get to know somebody without being disrespectful and going down a road that's not a conversation that I'm interested or willing to have with people on LinkedIn that I've never known before, because at the end of the day, what relevance does that have to my professional credibility?
Yeah, yeah. Now, my edict that I remind myself of is the world is full of idiots. We have to figure out ways to walk around them. Now, don't say this out loud, but sometimes I say without stomping them in the face. But I didn't say that, okay?
YouTube heard nothing.
But you know that, but so for me, and by the way, social media tools are getting smarter. Facebook messaging. Just yesterday, I saw this flag. Some dude sends me an invite to connect or friend me on Facebook, and he presents himself as a cryptologist expert, on what's it called,
all the cryptocurrency stuff.
Cryptocurrency expert, okay? And so I'm like, okay, interesting guy, but I don't accept a friend request from anybody if I don't understand who they are. And my rule, I don't accept a friend request on Facebook unless we had a real conversation and we've giggled. Okay. So I asked this guy, who the heck is he and why does he want to connect? And I ask him polite words. He comes back with, hello, how are you? Okay, well, you didn't answer my question. And so Facebook saw that, my question. I don't know how they did this in the algorithm. They saw my question and they saw, hello, how are you? And they brought up a flag. And a flag on the screen said, do you know this person? We often see a trend, words to this effect, of inappropriate messaging and inappropriate invites that start with those words. Hello, how are you? I'm like, oh.
Very interesting.
So social media is catching on to those people that we need to figure out a way to get rid of. So, but Terry, it is a matter of time, and you also got to be careful. You don't want to turn down an opportunity for a conversation because you never know where it's going to go. So I'm pretty purposeful on LinkedIn, Facebook, anybody who wants to engage with me on social. I'm pretty purposeful about saying or asking, how could I help you? And if they come back with a reasonable response, then maybe I'll continue the engagement. Maybe I'll accept the invite. If they don't come back with a reasonable response, no.
You're not accepted as a friend. No.
Worse than that, I'm going to tell all your other friends that you're not a good friend.
Well, that's a good question, though. And I think it's a fair question because the relationship, when it's a relationship, is a two-way street. We both have something to gain from knowing each other. It is our job as individuals to figure out what that is, whether it be a tip, a piece of advice, a connection, a referral, or just a friend. There's something to gain for everybody in every relationship. So if we can identify that on the front side, then we know how we need to show up for each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let me share with you the plan B that I've implemented.
Yes. Okay. Plan B. What's plan B? And then tell us how you flip this.
Well, here's how I flipped. So plan A was to, really wasn't a plan, but it's what happened and made sense happen, was to grow my LinkedIn connections to a reasonable level with people who are relevant to me in lots of different ways. My friends, my family, my drinking buddies, my industry peers, my target audience, their influencers, people who I learned from. I grew my LinkedIn connections very intentionally in that space. Then at some point, I'm like, I've got a lot of LinkedIn connections. I got to be really purposeful that I don't get it too big and it start to become irrelevant. So what I did, and this is a YouTube video I actually published this morning because I got asked this question last night. What I did was I flipped the trigger and I turned on follow. I actually turned on let people follow me years ago, but what I did even more deliberately is I switched it so that when you look at my LinkedIn profile, by default, you're going to have the follow button instead of the connect button. And what that does now, I've been using that pretty purposely for the last 3 years. My followers on LinkedIn just keeps going up and up and up. My connections go up slower, but my followers are going up factorially faster. And I'm good with that because if I treat my followers right, they become influencers.
That makes good sense. And I've seen that. I've seen that on some profiles where you can have follow over connect, and you actually have to go out of your way to figure out how to connect with them.
Yeah.
and be able to send them a message. There was a person I was listening to, a professional coach, and she's coaching on publishing. And she was in one of my podcasts, and I went to her LinkedIn and connected with her, and hers was set up for follow. So I had to go out of my way to find the connect and then send her a personalized message about how we met and why I wanted to connect with her. And she, sure enough, accepted my connect request. Now it's on me to reach back out and have another conversation with her, but at least she accepted the connect request. So I love that it doesn't limit, but it does kind of put a barrier of entry to that connection request if you have the follow button first. Okay.
The real limitation of not connecting is that, I mean, if you use the invite appropriately, with an invite message, then you've opened the door for us to engage via LinkedIn messaging. Okay. I'll have to go test this, but I think that with the if you don't accept an invite, if you don't actually connect on LinkedIn, then you really can't. Let me go take a look at one of them. You don't have the ability. I'm not going to be able to find it easily, but I don't have the ability to send a video message to people that I did not connect with. Let me test it real quick. I don't know. It looks like I do have the ability to send video message to people I'm not connected with, as long as we started an engagement via the LinkedIn message. So that may have changed. So number one is, if you send an invite with a message and you engage in that messaging, you can continue that message thread even though you're not connected. Number two is not being connected. I can't see your email address or your phone number if you in fact share that with first level connections. And number three, not being connected, then I can't see your LinkedIn network that you have, which, by the way, that's been minimized anyway. I can't see any more than 1,000 of your connections. So there's a few barriers or a few limitations by not being actually connected, but they're not significant enough that following doesn't create value.
Amazing. Thanks for those nuggets there. For those of you that are still listening to this conversation, Teddy has been amazing. He's not only shared tips on time management, but we're talking now about LinkedIn, some changes that have been happening in the LinkedIn space, and how you might be able to tap into LinkedIn to maximize your relationships to grow your business. Teddy, what's the best way for our listening audience to get in touch with you one more time?
Go to Burriss Consulting. Burriss is Burriss, burrissconsulting.com. You can discover where I am on everywhere on social media. I'm on a few different social media platforms. You can find out what I do and how I help people. And if you like what you see, then they'll pop up a little box. You can subscribe and become one of my raving fans that I share all of my coolest stuff directly with that list before it goes to anyone else.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. For those of you that are listening to, I'm Terry Watkins, your host, the Chief Idea Catcher over here at Spin Frogs. You've been listening to the Terrific Tips podcast, and don't go away yet, because we have another question for Teddy. And this one is going to be the creme de la creme. You want to hear this answer. So stay tuned for that. But if you're wondering what Spin Frogs does, we help business owners catch the ideas that stick. A lot of times we walk around our office wondering, how are we going to make X, Y, and Z interesting today? Or I have to share something on social media and I just don't know what to say. Oh, I'll take a picture of this pen and pretend it's interesting. Nobody cares about what you've just eaten for lunch today. Yeah, ta-ta. Let's talk a little bit more about how we can be strategic and deliberate with the content that we share so that we can continue to showcase our value without devaluing our brand. I'm Terry Watkins. You can reach out to me at spinfrogs.com, and that's spin frogs with an S.com. My contact information is over here on the screen. And if you go to spinfrogs.com/gift, you can even get 17 ways to grow your social media that are unbelievable tips to growing your social media. So go get that free PDF now. And Teddy, back to you. I've got one more question for you today.
Hope you're not going to tax me, make me work hard.
No, hopefully not. So, if you could go back to your younger self in this time machine that I know nothing of, what would be one tip that you would tell your younger self to help you be more effective in what you do today?
Um, your network will become your most important asset in your life. And if you can grasp what that means, Teddy, when you're 16 years old, you're wearing a silk shirt, you have high heel shoes on, not really high heel, but you have raised shoes on. You got, your shirt's unbuttoned and you got a gold necklace in your neck. You're riding around in a 66 Chevy 2, chrome wheels on it, 350 V8, souped up left and right, leather seats, 4-speed, wide tires on the back. And I'm hanging out with a bunch of people who didn't care about me, and I didn't really know a lot about them. Your network will become your most important asset in life. So be purposeful about who you bring in or let in to your network. Be purposeful about growing a network of people who have broad perspectives and diverse ideas, because that's how you're going to learn new ideas that you've never discovered yet. Be purposeful about taking care of your network, which means don't make it all about you, Teddy. Be willing to help others. Your network will become your most important asset in life. And man, I wish I would have thought of that when I was 20, 30 years old. I discovered it at least when I was 42, and I started treating my network a little differently. And it became really, really vital to me in my life, in my business, my career, my community, and helping others and growing my business and helping my family. That's what I wish I would have known when I was 16 years old.
It's such a good nugget. Your network
Yeah.
will become your net worth, if you want to put it that way. And it really does. It is all about the relationships. So make sure that you are intentional with the people that you are around. If you want to know who you're emulating, look at the 5 closest people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And then ask yourself, is this the kind of person that I want to emulate? If not, it might be time to shake it up a little bit, introduce some new people into your network.
Yeah. Yeah.
Teddy, this has been absolutely delightful. I really appreciate you, your time, your nuggets, your wisdom. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, cool. Terry, thank you for having me. We will talk another day.
I so look forward to it. Everybody who's listening, thank you for taking the time to listen. If you've liked what you've heard today, let us know. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment. At the end of the day, this podcast, The Terrific Tips for Business, was designed for you, not only to provide information for you, but also to provide you a platform to come and showcase your knowledge in a valuable way. And I appreciate all of you for taking the time to listen. Until next week, enjoy your week. And for those of you in the US, happy 4th